Hello, welcome to Raw Light. Tonight we have a special guest on with us, and her name is Sally Saint. And as a therapist and artist, Sally works with parents across the world who are struggling in their own healing and helping them to learn how to emotionally and support themselves and understand their children better through a new paradigm of parenting, allowing their children to express their emotions feel their feelings, and be vulnerable, moving from blame to shame to acceptance, alignment, and love. So as soon as we get her on here, we'll send her an invite, and I have a strange feeling you guys are going to enjoy her. Let me see. According to this, she says she can't go live with us right now. I'm not sure why. Hey, Sally, can you check your settings on that right quick? For some reason it's saying that we can't add you on, and that would be a bummer because you're the guest. I'm not sure why. So, yeah, I know you're here. Sally, look and see if there's a thing on the bottom where you can request to come on live, because some of the people on, they say you can add them and everything on here, and you're not one of them, unfortunately. I don't understand really what's going on. Normally, I can bring them on camera. Or you know what? You can go out and come right back in. See if that helps. I don't know if it has anything to do with our connection. Since you're in England, that's a possibility. I'm not sure. Sally is from England, by the way. But she is a sweetheart, and she's doing this for children and parents, and it's a beautiful thing. I had the pleasure of talking with her for, oh man, over an hour, I guess, you know. And she says you can't go live right now. I don't understand why. There was another program that I was going to try to use, but I can't seem to get it up and running. And our friend John was supposed to be here, but I think he's kind of busy at the moment. We got 3 or 4 people in the house. I guess we should have checked it, which didn't really come to our mind, because when we connected by messenger, man, it was like spot on. It sounded like she was literally next door. Of course, we're going to have these issues from time to time. That's for sure. Here we go. Invite. Add. Wait until Spirit lines up and has things going. Okay, Sally, I sent you the invite. All you have to do is hit add, or okay, or however that works.
Hiya, I'm here.
There she is. Yeah, it's working.
I managed to do it on my mobile, so it wouldn't do it on my laptop, but I've done it on my mobile now. So I am here.
Isn't that strange, though? I think Pat and I were talking about this last month, I guess it was, that because he was doing it on his computer, and it's almost like you have to have the right version of Facebook loaded up on your computer, because there's the newer version that's on the phone, and you really don't think about that until you try to do something like this, you know.
No, absolutely not. And my laptop is tortoise rather than hair, so it's quite slow.
I know, mine is too. That's why I always do everything on the phone.
Oh, do
you know what I mean? Yeah,
well, I've learned from experience. So I'm now here.
So I was reading part of your introduction. There's another paragraph here, and you're an energy healer, and Sally also serves in helping those in need to balance in their light and their dark, and to step in their shadow energies and make peace with them. assisting them in freeing their resistance and dissolving their need for protection. So let's start off with that before we get into the whole
Okay.
thing about the parents and the kids, because I find it interesting, because as a master of shadows, I'm also like that, where I believe that, you know, everything in this duality is about, you know, the light and our shadows, and it's a part of who we are. So why wouldn't we want to embrace that?
Absolutely. And also any shadow work or anything that you face that you feel is dark, there's always a gift in there. So you're always reclaiming something. So I think part of the message for us is that we need to get out there, that it's okay to step into the shadow and that you will come beyond it, but you're reclaiming a part of you, and it's very valid work. There's a lot of talk about the light, and that's great. But then also you know, walking into the shadow and walking with it and learning is massive. It's a massive part of it. It's a massive part of you, because we hide things in shadows that we feel perhaps are negative, and they can be very much far from negative. They're just wrapped up in situations which have been tough.
And I think that in the shadow, when we embrace what we are as the shadow, the things that we've gone through, those are the things that have really woken us up and put us in a place where we're more willing to self-examine who we truly are in order to advance, don't you think?
Absolutely. And also it makes us less judgmental then. If we embrace all of us,
Mm-hmm.
then we're allowing ourselves to be human, which is fantastic. So it's an A1 for us, but also everyone around us. It has a knock-on effect to everyone that links with us. So embrace every aspect of yourself and learn from everything. Learn from everything. And our situations, they're part of our tapestry, aren't they? So everything that's happened to us, every single stitch is necessary.
Well, see, I think you brought up a really good point, is that once we accept that part of ourselves, then we're able and more willing to have compassion and empathy for other hurting souls that are in the same place, and we have a
Yeah.
better understanding of who we are, but also who they are, and we become more accepting, and, you know, using that unconditional love to say, okay, we're all part of the whole, and so this is what we need to move forward and raise our vibration, right?
Absolutely. And what I love, and like obviously, like we've been linked for a little while, and I've got a lot of respect for your work, but I love the fact that you put everything on there. So when your lorry was stuck the other day, you were saying how you felt. And isn't that great, just to allow yourself to express? You're accepting how you feel.
And exactly,
It's
and that's the point of it all, is the acceptance of feeling it in the moment, but not attaching the emotion to the point where it's going to just continue and evolve from that.
absolutely just,
That you're willing to say, you know what, okay, this is what's going on in the moment, and I'm going to let go of it.
yeah. And you just let it flow. And flow means it continues and goes on. It doesn't stay stuck.
Right, right. Yeah, it's not like, you know, it's not like a dam, you know, because that's how we are. We act like a dam where we're just damming everything up, and as sooner or later that levee's going to break.
Totally. And that's the suppressed, repressed, trying to be perfect, trying to hold it all in person, isn't it? And that is the dam waiting to burst.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. And see, now I think this is the perfect type of discussion that leads into a segue of what you're doing for other parents,
Mm.
you know, in educating them and helping them with their children so that they're not, you know, the old saying of, you know what, children are to be heard or seen and not heard type of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I grew up.
Yes, absolutely. And it's complete and utter rubbish. And unfortunately, it's still around there. So children are very much seen as lower class. You know, I see it around. It's almost quiet when they speak up, rather than respecting that they have a voice and to cherish that they have a voice. So just because something is small, it's the same with animals, isn't it? But you know, children are our greatest teachers, and we need to understand that and respect that. So instead of seeing when
Yes.
something is going on with a relationship, instead of putting it all on the child as to what's going on with the child, think, okay, this child is helping me heal. This child is making me feel really uncomfortable because there's something I need to shift. And this is what I encourage parents to do. So when I work with them, this is what I'm saying. Because you take away that blame and you think, okay, this situation's happened for a reason, and so as I can work on myself deeper and be free of this. I'm sure you know the saying of that anything that happens in the family can get passed on, and that's energetically. So even if something is a secret, it can pass on
Definitely.
down the line. So it's so important that parents activate themselves so as they end whatever the family line is, so it doesn't pass on to children. Children have their own lives. They shouldn't be living yours. So if you're passing something on to them, make it good stuff. And then the rest,
Right.
they will make their own paths.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. What's the because I'm more inclined towards, the masculine energy that's rising to meet
Yeah,
with the feminine energy, but that
yeah.
is what's in the divine love. So let me ask you this. What How would you explain to people, whether they are parents or not, or even if they're children, or anybody that might ever hear this, and how we would explain or guide people in their gender roles as male and female in this new paradigm?
It's quite interesting. It's quite a rise of single parents. I'm one of them. So that means you have to be both. But what it does is it really makes you work on yourself. So I've seen it as, instead of a societal label, I'm seeing it as this is the ultimate opportunity to face this and to heal this within myself. Because to my child, I must be both. And so, but then it's making me, for myself, it's important for me that I must be both. It's important for my life that I have that balance. It's important for my work, the masculine, the feminine, the action, the intuitive, the balancing of all the time. And it's, for me, being a single parent made it really obvious, the imbalances, and that's exactly what it was meant to do.
Sure,
We
sure.
all have these, like you say, we have these energies inside us. And there's a wave of single parents out there. And so I would say to each one of you, instead of seeing it as this heaviness, this label, see it as, okay, this is a massive opportunity for me to embrace both sides of myself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that we all need to kind of like look into to do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because we have this beautiful opportunity to balance the masculine and the feminine in ourselves, discover that, and be the living example to these children. Our children. My kids. My youngest daughter is 18, but that doesn't mean that I stop as a father and being an example. You know what I mean?
no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I would say to every parent as well, if they perceive or feel that it may be too late for them, their children may be too old to make a difference, there is no such thing. So no matter where you are on the parenting journey, you are ready right now if you're being woken up, no matter what the age. So embrace it. And of course you can turn things around. Of course you can heal. You can heal the things between yourself and your child if major things are going on. Do the healing work on yourself, and it benefits all.
Right. And especially now, we're going into this new paradigm. We're coming up in a couple of days, going through the Gia portal, of the fall equinox, and this is the perfect time, and this is perfect timing as well for this show,
Yeah,
because and it doesn't matter if you guys are catching this afterwards, in the replay. It's still important because it is about the transmutation of the old paradigm and the old way of thinking, whether it's in the masculine or the feminine, and bringing forth the new light and understanding of who we really are. And we have so many different avenues through the internet, through Facebook and other social media to learn these things. But always check inside of yourself what's resonating with you. And if you're having a struggle with it or a problem, there's so many of us that are out here that you can communicate with, to get some of the answers or some of the guidance, I should say. Because I don't want to come across as a guy that say, "Oh, I have all the answers," but it's having that inner standing, not just the inner standing, but the knowing of what's right for me. You and I had talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we spoke on the
yeah,
phone.
yeah.
It is about what do you feel is right for you? What's right for your kid? If you don't think that they should get vaccinations, then tell the school no, it's not going to happen. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing of parenting from the heart, is you're listening from that core that goes with the flow, but also understands what's right for you and your family. So you always go from that, and that will be your
Right.
guidance. There's a lot of pressure on parents, and I know that that's global, not just in the UK. And so there are a number of things that are pushed onto you. You must do this. This is the best thing for your child. And when you initially start stepping up and saying, well, actually, no, you could be surrounded by a lot of people who are still carrying on doing it. And this is where that strength comes in. You connect with that beautiful heart that tells you, I'm going to do what's right for my child. I'm going to do what's right for my family. And there's a strength there. There's a gentleness, but there's a strength that says, I know what's right. And you follow that. And this is where you come into your own. And this is why a lot of parents are having this knock on their door, because it's like that realization their children wake them up in a way. And it's that it's so important that they embrace this awakening. And it will feel uncomfortable because you're going against a number of things that feel like big things. So if there's a government way of doing things, if there's a school way of doing things, whatever, there will be something that you're coming up against, you know, and it'll be, this just does not feel right. Listen. And allow the uncomfortableness and face it. Don't avoid it, but no, your heart will guide you through, because your heart is so strong.
Right, right. I know in a personal experience, like with myself, my daughter had her phone taken away because, and this is the way the schools here are in America. She had it turned off. It was in the bottom of her backpack. They came into her classroom and just said, okay, we're doing a search. And just like if it was a damn prison or something, came in and took the phone. And then they forgot where they put it. Finally, 4 weeks later, 3 or 4 weeks later, whatever it was, I just happened to be in town because she lives 2 hours away. And I walked in, and because of the way the laws are set up through the courts, even though I have joint custody, my ex-wife is the one she's the only one that has authority to do anything with my daughter in that school. But here I am with my rights ripped away as the father who's literally
Absolutely.
paying the child support and everything. So then I had to make sure that well, see, the thing was, I was very respectful and nice, and some of the people that were there very kindly put me on the list. That really wasn't supposed to happen, but that's the way spirit works. So, end of the story is, I retrieved the cell phone, gave my daughter a little talking to, and she has her phone back. You know, that was last school year, but you get my point. We have to stand up for our children. We have to stand up in our own personal power for ourselves. It doesn't matter what the law says or the school system says. You know, we have to stand up for them, because even though my daughter is 18 years old right now and she's in her senior year, they still treat her as a minor.
Yeah.
I don't know how they get away with that crap. You know what I mean?
No. No.
But once again, it's my job as the elder, you know, the father, to actually exercise my rights. And I think that's what we're trying to get across to people here. Don't allow someone else to tell you what you can or cannot do for your own child.
Totally. And also, there's the importance of action. So we talk about the feminine and the masculine, and the masculine is the action. Now, there's a lot of, and there's, you know, sensitive, empathic, gentle, kind people out there, and I'm very blessed to have many of them around me. But also, when something happens with your child, the action is that male side. So you're actually saying that masculine side, speak, and that's where the action comes in. But it comes from the heart. So when it comes from the heart, you're going, well, actually, this is not right for my child. I must speak. And that's a massive healing in itself as well. So when you've got somebody who is sensitive and possibly in the shadows more, when you've got a child that you need to speak up to, that's when that masculine really gets activated, because you have to take action, because your heart is saying you must.
Yeah, and everybody watching and is going to be watching this, understand that when Sally's talking about the masculine, she's not talking about your dad or your husband, you know, or whatever. You know, she's talking about you as a woman. You know, that masculine energy, to have that confidence in that voice, clear out that throat chakra, gain your strength, you know, and stand firm in what you know and what you believe is right for your child and for yourself especially. You know, you and I were talking, I wanted to make sure that I brought this up. You and I were talking about how whenever a child is born in the first year of life, you know, they have these charts and expectations of what a normal child is, and they're supposed to weigh this much, and they're supposed to be this long, and they're supposed to walk by this age and talk like this age. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to just flat out say it. It's all bullshit. You know,
Absolutely. It is.
it's up to that specific soul in how they progress. And the
Totally.
unconditional love way is to just let them be them, and don't
Yeah.
downtrod them and make them feel like they're less than what they are because they didn't talk 2 months before your brother's kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of labeling going on with children, and also, like, you know, and there's like speech therapists going in sooner with children because the developmental age says they must speak at this time. Well, that child then gets labeled with that, and that child goes through that. And I know there used to be just autism, Asperger's, and there's a lot more now in between. And yes, it may help with diagnosis and it may help with funding, but ultimately you need to then step beyond that. But I'm totally in agreement with you that there's growth charts, weight charts, when they're meant to be, what they're meant to be doing at such and such a time. It is a pressure that is not needed, and it is complete and utter rubbish, because children develop at their own time. There was something about Einstein that he didn't speak until he was a certain age, until he was older, and yet look at the brain he had. So do not go. It does not matter. And yet, to a parent,
Right.
when your world shrinks from the world that you've been working in and whatever, and it suddenly becomes you and the child, and you have all this pressure on you, it is so unnecessary, and it panics the parents because they're being panicked. Oh, your child isn't putting on enough weight, your child isn't doing this, isn't doing that, instead of saying, isn't this child a remarkable individual, and let's give thanks to the parent that is nurturing this beautiful child at whatever weight, whatever size, whatever they are, and thoroughly, totally enjoy this moment and this time, because when they're young, it is remarkable, and you're meant to be there with them, and you're meant to be enjoying it, because there's this absolute glow of love surrounding you. And so enjoy it. Do not let anyone rob you of that glow. It is beautiful.
Yeah, I'll give you another personal example where my first grandson, my son had my granddaughter first, and then but my first grandson, and they understood, they could tell before he was born that he had a, like, I guess it's called a club foot, where it's turned inward and sideways. And so they kept on saying, you know, this, and my son was pretty young then, probably like 23 or 24. And so he and I were talking about it, and he's like, you know, Dad, this is going to happen. He's going to need an operation. He's going to need this and all this other stuff. I said, son, let me tell you something. That little boy is going to be born, and if you tell him he has a disability, then he's going to believe it for the rest of his life. If you
Yeah.
don't tell him he has one, he's going to overcome it and think nothing of it. To this day, he just had this past summer when we were on vacation, he turned 5. And does his foot, you know, well, they did put a corrective thing on it. He didn't have surgery, but they did put a corrective thing on it, you know, as he was learning to walk and stuff. But is his foot like everybody else's? No. Does Brennan think that he has a problem? No, because he walks and runs just like any other kid.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
And so think about what these doctors are telling you, take it into account, but don't label your kid or yourself because of what's going on. And Brennan is the perfect example of it. If you were to look at this kid playing with his brother or his older sister, you would never know unless he took his shoes off.
Yeah, absolutely. My son, I have spoken about it before, but there was anomalies when I was, they found anomalies when I was, because you get scanned, and on my 20-week scan, they found anomalies with my child, and there were 3 of them. And so I was put into a system straight away, and a very panicky doctor so I was put into whether I was going to have a healthy child, whether I should abort, all these things. He came out beautifully, but you're in a system, so there was lots of anxiety and things around him. So, but what actually came out in the end of it was he had a congenital cyst on his lung, and they wanted to operate when he was very, very tiny, and I refused because I had this bonny baby test on him. they want to do all these tests on him, but I listened. He did ultimately. It did have to have an operation, but I waited, and it was until when he was 2. But I was listening to him. But from before, but a couple of weeks after he was born, until he was 2, I held off because I was listening to him. But I listened internally. And when he did have the operation, I carried him into the theatre, and they gave him the injection, and he just went. Obviously, he just went a dead weight in my arms because they knocked him out for the operation. But that child trusted me to go in, and that child was just, and it was quite a shock feeling his dead weight because he was only 2 and he weighed so heavy.
Yeah.
But I had so many people telling me it must be done, and it was a big operation. So he's got a big scar on the back of him because they had to go down through his ribs to remove this congenital cyst. But what I tell him now, he's 8, and this scar will grow with him. It's a big scar, so it will stay. And I've told him, and what I told him was he was a warrior, and that this is his scar. So there is no negativity about it, because that's the important thing. He's got this. But I just, it was remarkable. He's a remarkable child. But I listened to internal dialogue with him. So for whatever the pressure the doctors were telling me I must do, there was something inside me that activated when I had him. And because I had this pressure, I was listening from my heart. And so this is why I know the importance of it. So my situation was quite extreme because there was all this going on around me, and there was a team of doctors and specialists and whatever going on. But
Sure.
I know that anybody can access this. You don't have to be in the intense period. But it's remarkable. It is remarkable, and it stayed with me, that and with us, that bond. I listened.
See, now I think that's another thing too, that that nothing can ever take away a mother's intuition. The bond that they have with their own child. There's nothing like it. There's nothing that can interfere with it. And if for some reason that a mother is overwhelmed with anxiety and stress because of all that garbage coming in, if you have a husband or a significant other with you who is more grounded, then that's a blessing within itself, so that you can listen to your intuition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you haven't, then look at friends, look at resources, look at others. So I was with my partner at the time, but it wasn't supportive. So this was something I was doing on my own. But there were little nuggets of, there would be a conversation with somebody. There would be something that I was being guided through this. And I knew there was something, so I could look into this child's eyes, and I knew. And this was before the vocalization, so when he was younger. But I would just link with this child, and I knew. And that was what kept me going, because I was the quiet, sensitive person, and yet there was something within me that was stopping things. And yet when the time was right, and something switched, and I knew, okay, now it's the time. And it was a bigger operation, and he was 2, so he was able to handle it in many ways, but I sure as heck wouldn't have wanted to put a baby through it. So I'm so thankful that I listened. And it's for him, there is no complications, it's done. So the operation was done at 2, there was nothing else that needed doing.
Awesome.
And I'm just, and it took a while for me to look at the scar because it reminded me of many things. But when I actually turned it around for him, I could actually turn it around for myself. And I said like I said, he's a warrior. And so that's what and that's the energy now that I carry about it. So we learn so much about the situations that we go into, and our children are going to take us into many, many places. But if you can come from the heart, you will always be, it's like you have this shining light that guides you, and there's a warmth about it and a gentleness, but also there's a purpose. You understand there's something inside you that says, well, actually, no, I'm not going to do this, or yes, I am. It's like you've got this compass that is just guiding you the way that is right for you and your child.
Right. I just wanted to remind you real quick, and everyone else, when we're done, if you would please add your links, with your information and stuff
Yeah.
to the comments and everything, so everybody can get a hold of you, or check out
Absolutely.
your information and stuff, because this
Yeah.
is something that's around the world. Unfortunately, it seems like here in America, they call this the land of freedom, but yet, with all the tests these kids have to do. I was just saying, I'm talking about my grandkids. The very first day back to school, that night they had homework. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, are you
Yeah.
serious?
Absolutely.
And why should they be put under that level of burden and stress? But yeah, it's happening everywhere. I think that what you're doing and how you're, you know, sharing with everybody is absolutely remarkable and beautiful. And I think that we need, we've only got a few people actually watching this right now because I'm not normally on Wednesdays and I'm early, but I'm asking everybody to make sure that you share this. This is not just a video of raw light. This is information that needs to get out because a lot of these younger parents don't understand that they have the right to speak up for themselves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, some of the avenues have even been shut off because I do writing for natural parenting magazines, and there was one that I wrote, and they refused to touch it because it was about vaccinations. So there's a lot of avenues because things are getting inflamed. People won't touch them, but that still leaves people who are unsure under a lot of pressure. It's like, well, what do I do? Because it's been shut off, so that again, the freedom of speech is not, it's restricted, so
Yes.
um, and again, listen from your heart. I am not being judgmental. It is just you listen from the heart and what's right for your child. The same as parenting. My son goes to an independent Montessori inspired school. He's 8. He has been tested, but he doesn't know. They don't test them so as they know. They're not about the results. Yeah. So they know where the children are, but they don't put them under pressure as your A, B, C, D, and E. And
Okay.
children love to learn. So my understanding of children and development and how they can progress is actually being supported by the school that he's in. They also have a rehabilitation centre, which is the only one in the UK for rehabilitating
Wow.
children traumatized by the school system. And I see these children. So I
Oh, that's
have
awesome.
this. Yeah. So it's like the universe keeps giving me this stuff of this is what the child loves to learn. A child will learn. There are children there that they lock themselves in their bedrooms. They feel suicidal
Right.
because of the testing, the bullying, whatever's been going on. And then, hey presto, they're put in the right environment with the right people and they're supported. There's kids there choosing to increase their hours to go to school. So they may be coming for an hour, then they'll come for 2, then they'll come for a day, then 2 days. There are children there that want to go to school. So I am, and again, I'm seeing these children that are so anxious and so strung up by a system that continually tests them and doesn't listen to them that
Right.
again, I'm getting messages all the time about the children.
Let me ask you something. Like in the UK, because here in America, there seems to be a real problem with some school systems taking out, art and music and shop, and different, even, home ec is history now. They don't even do home economics. And I don't even know if they do sex education anymore. But anything that's creative seems to be, on the back burner. They're more worried about and concerned about sports, and then they turn around and say, okay, well, our funding doesn't cover this, so we're going to do fundraisers so you can pay for it. And it seems like as much money is paid in school taxes and things like that here in America, that it seems like the funding should be there. But what's
Yeah.
it like as far as the creative courses and things there in the UK? What's it like for you guys?
It is, I would say that it's similar. One of the teachers that now works at the school that she was previously in, the children she was teaching were 4, 5, they were 6, so they were young ones. Break
Hmm.
time, there wasn't time for them to sit down and eat. They were stood up eating. That's for a break. So,
Oh,
they're
that's crazy.
crammed. Yeah. So the timetable is they must tick this box, they must do this by the end of the week, they must have these boxes ticked. So if for some reason there's a different thing happening on a day, say there could be a fundraising or something going on, at the end of the week the same box still has to be ticked. So the children and the teachers, there are fantastic teachers who are stepping away from their roles because they don't want to be teaching like this. And so again, because of the school that I do work there as well, so I do work there too, I'm seeing these teachers go into this school and saying, this is fantastic because I can teach how my heart is telling to me to again. The schooling system was made to produce factory workers. And
Yes.
I believe the change will happen. I believe it will. But right now, they're still seeing as this is the problem we need to push more on. So they're testing younger and younger again. But why would you test a child so young? Why would you? And creativity in a children's mind, you know, the play that they have, they can make things out of sticks, and it can be the most phenomenal thing. They love creativity. Right. And that's what keeps their energy going, is that creativity. Whereas if they're put in a structure so young, it's some can cope. I'm not saying there are some that can cope, but is coping enough?
Yeah.
You know, with living, with enjoying, with respect, with and also then I'm seeing like the bullying obviously increasing, and there's a lot of pressure on. So if they've got pressure at home and then they've got pressure at school, what do? They're going to go one way or the other. So I'm even seeing the bullies as they're still a thing of the system as well. Yes, I know I'm not saying that there will be things going on at home, but also when there's pressure in the school too, it brings things out to the surface big time, because bullying is there's a lot of it in the UK, and I'm sure that is not just it's global as well. But that's another symptom of children are under pressure. Children are under pressure.
I was just going to say, not only are they at pressure at school, but like you said, you don't know what their parents are under pressure. So then that way they're not getting the attention or support from home, because and it's not really the parents' fault, because they're also within that hamster wheel, if you will. And so then what is bullying? It's acting out for attention. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And also you're controlling something because you haven't got control of your life. I was bullied when I was younger in primary school. So I can see that child was desperately trying to get control in some part of their life because they didn't have it at home. And so the easiest way to get control is to control over somebody who you would say was sensitive, quiet, shy, however you would say. But they will find their target and have control over that.
Right. And then what seems to be, I mean, I don't know about school shootings and stuff there in England, but here in America, of course, everybody knows about it. And I wonder if that's part of the problem, is that these kids, okay, and this goes back to the teachers too. I think the teachers are overburdened, overworked. They're in situations where they can't do their job. I know in a lot of situations where the teachers have to take money out of their own funds, out of their own paycheck in order to have the funds for just normal everyday materials for the classroom. It's ridiculous.
Yes, it is. Everything and everyone needs the pressure taken off them. I say fantastic teachers are walking. This should be seen as a major thing. And like you say, the shootings in America, it's not at that level here. But it just shows what is happening. Desensitization, parents and also children who feel lost are disappearing into virtual worlds where they're seeing, and also they could be buying games and things older for themselves. So they're seeing, it's like it desensitizes them as to what's actually going on. So they're doing a lot of shooting games, a lot of combat games. Maybe they're chasing heroes. That's why they're doing it. If things are going on in their lives, maybe they're going for these big, strong heroes who, like, watered down could be the Greek heroes, because my son and the children are doing Latin in school, so there's a lot of mythology going on. So you're seeing these big, strong heroes, the Romans, and they're doing all the history and that with them, and the children love the like Odysseus and all the different, Medusa, and they're doing all these things, but the good against evil and whatever. And maybe this whole gaming thing and what's going on and how children get sucked into it and teens are getting sucked into it for the same thing. It's the hero. They're looking for the hero. They're looking for the strong archetypal. But unfortunately, they're getting fed into a system that's making a lot of money. So the gaming system is making a lot of money, and they're getting. So then they're associating hero with bang bang, rather than hero is strong but also listens. The balance, masculine, feminine. Where are these children getting that role model of balanced male?
Well, and that's part of what we're talking about, right? Is that why are they looking outside of themselves for it? Who do they have as a parent or a teacher or an uncle or a grandfather or a grandmother to fulfill those feminine and masculine roles as examples?
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
who the hell are they supposed to look up to?
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also linking with somebody who is, you could have one conversation with somebody who is the balanced, the balanced being. That would be enough to make you spark, okay, there's something more than this, and that would be enough to wrinkle your energy, and just say, hang on, there's something more here, and that would be enough to make a question. So I would say to anybody who isn't a parent, you have a massive role and responsibility in being yourself out in the world and linking with somebody. And also teens, I know teens have been seen as quite scary now as well, so there's almost like a back off with teens because there's an uncertainty about it. But you can be a role model in a short conversation. You can link with them, look them in the eye, and treat them as an equal. You have a role to play as well. So that no one needs to step back and say, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. We all can make a difference. We're all linked. Those children are our children, whoever they are. I've got my child here in my home. There are 1,000,001 children out in this world that I will still see as I'm parenting.
And I think that's part of it too, is that to look at everybody with unconditional love. And if you look at a teenager, let's say, we'll use that example because you used it, somebody who might be unruly or, disrespectful or whatever else. The thing about it is, if you communicate with them, no matter how they're reacting to you or the words or actions they're saying towards you, you're planting the seed to say, look, dude, why you gotta, just chill out a minute. Let's talk.
Absolutely.
And then he goes, oh, screw you, you're just an old man kind of thing. All right, but you know what? Been down your road, bro.
And you could have planted the seed.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about it is, no, they might not admit it to their group of friends that they were with because they were trying to act big, in front of their friends, but they're going to look back and say, huh, that was different. Something to make them stop and think at a later time. Look, again, they are hurting souls. They're not getting the attention or the guidance that they're supposed to. Do you want to just kind of like reach up and bitch slap them? Yeah, I do. I'm gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt the first 2 or 3 times. But I also will make sure that I will not allow them to cross my boundaries that I set up for myself. And in doing that, Sally, you're also teaching them the same boundaries. Look, I respect myself too much for you to treat me like this. You want to have a conversation, it's all good. I'll go buy you a Pepsi or whatever. I'll get you something at McDonald's. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. But you treat me like shit, then you know what? It's no wonder shit's going on in your life the way it's supposed to be. And when you talk to them like that, with honest, open exchange, without personally attacking them, they're going to remember that.
Absolutely. And healthy boundaries is a massive thing, like you're saying, the yes and the no. So when you're saying yes, this behavior is appropriate. When you're saying no, this is not on. And that's really important. There was quite a movement in the natural parenting world, is how I say it, and about not saying no. And so there was I remember reading a book, and there's like 1,000,001 ways you can go around it rather than say the word. And actually, no is really powerful, and you want your child to have that. So what you need to think about is when you reclaim boundaries and when you put boundaries into your home, that child goes out into that world with those boundaries and will say no to things. Yes, they'll still learn, so they'll go through their learning process, but ultimately inside they know what healthy boundaries is. And that's also the
Okay.
same as over rigid is not healthy either. So if you're a no, no, no all the time, there has to be some give in boundaries because you're allowing that child to grow.
Yeah, okay, now you make a great point there, and this kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation when I was talking about different things where, doctors come up with these growth charts and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I think you and I had talked about this, that what's the first thing that kids hear from their parents? And what's the first word that you hear come out of their mouth? No. And the reason being is because you're not allowing them to express themselves, to be a little kid, to learn and explore. You're telling them, no, don't do this. No, don't do that. You're wanting to bind them up. So that's not a healthy boundary of an understanding of what the word no, and energy of no is. So it first starts at home. You have to be willing to say, because honestly, people, parents, and I was guilty of this too, where I would get short with my kids, and it's like, and it was only because of the stress and everything that I was under. My father, he didn't say no; he would just beat me. Okay, that's just the way things were.
Yeah.
Not all the time. My dad wasn't a tyrant; he was just military. He had that mind frame.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, for instance, my granddaughter, I remember her babysitter. She would go over at the bottom of the steps and go up to the second step, crawl up on it because she wasn't walking yet, and the babysitter would turn around. Oh, you're such a bad girl. Don't get on that step. You don't talk to kids like that.
No, no, no.
Because you're already implanting them that their self-worth is limited.
Absolutely.
You can't do that. You can't do that to a child just because it was done to you. So that's where I'm expressing on how to use the word no. And then, because like you're saying though, if you don't set that true understanding of the word no to them, they're only going to use the word no in how they've been taught.
Absolutely. And also then that goes the other way. My parents were fear-based, is what you would say. They had lots of things happen, but fear-based means that situations, people came through the door because of that non-vocalization. They were always afraid. So that's the importance of the no. Is it's safe as well. So all it takes is energetically or personally say no. And that's the importance of healthy boundaries. So this is why I've learned, because I understood that not having that boundary means that so many things comes into your home because there's nothing there to stop it, and that's energetically as well as the vocalization is not, people can almost, the wolf can sense the weak deer that they go for, can't they? So it's almost like the predator knows the prey. And so like my family were on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and yet things still happened because they both carried that fear base from where their life was from, their childhood. And hey presto, horrendous things came through because there was nothing there to stop it. And so even though they put themselves in the middle of nowhere, things still came in. So this is why I'm really strong on the healthy boundaries, because it does make a difference. And that's where the willy-nilly of you're not quite sure and you let the child almost dictate everything. That's where the non-boundaries happens, is that you're not quite sure what to do, so you don't do anything, and the child can run riot. So that's another symptom of the non-boundaries, is that you don't know what to do, so you don't instigate anything. But again, if you can work on yourself and this reclaiming of the masculine and feminine, because the masculine is very strong on boundaries, very clear, will speak, but also won't be a loaded with it. So that's the healthy masculine will say no, but without a million and one things behind it, meaning no, I want to kill you. It's actually just no. There is no loading to it, and a child knows the difference. When someone says no with clarity, fine. But if someone says no and they've got all this baggage going on with it, they know the difference and they'll play out. So,
and like you're saying too, whenever you're using that feminine, I mean the masculine rather, then you can add the feminine with the nurturing that goes along with it. Some people think it's
Absolutely.
either or. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're
No.
either going to have the masculine influence, and you're going to be a hard ass, or you're going to be a softie, and that's not it. That's not it at
No, it's
all.
not at all. Because also, if you raise a child and allow them to stay authentic, they will ask questions. So when you say no,
Sure.
they may be asking them, well, why can't I do whatever? Because again, that's that inquiring mind is still there. That inquire, and also that confidence to even ask the question. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's the
so
equality
you
of you
ask them,
say no, but then
right?
they say, well, okay, why? Yeah.
Right, and if they're asking the question, don't just say because I said so or I'm your mother or your father. You actually
Yeah.
have a conversation with them and
Yeah.
say, well,
Absolutely.
this is why, and
Yes.
you might not like it, but that's my rules. And
Yeah.
they're going to accept that. They might not like it, but they'll accept it. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else, too, what you were saying a minute ago that popped into my head. My grandfather, who was probably the biggest male influence on my life, he never, ever laid a hand on me. But
No.
he communicated with me, I guess, to the point where just by an expression on his face, I knew how he felt in the moment and whether I
Yeah.
disappointed him or whether he was happy or, maybe I should watch what I'm doing or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with physical punishment. However, there is a thing about discipline that should be involved with it as well. But again, I believe, and you're going to have kids that'll test you. I get that. They're all different personalities. But all in all, like with my son, I might have swatted his butt maybe 3 times before he was 5 years old. My daughter never had to lay a hand on her. But I'll tell you what, if I mentioned the word timeout and I put her literally in a chair, she didn't like it. And after 3 times, I didn't have, oh, and that's another thing. This thing about counting to 3, your kids know that. Sorry, they already know that trick, and they're going to keep
They
on
can
going
count
until you
properly.
get 3. Yeah, they're not stupid. It's like
And that's the thing.
people do that all the time, and I
I
just laugh
know.
like, really? Okay, watch. 2.5,
Yeah.
the kid's going to stop, and every single time, right?
And also, I would say as well, when we're learning how to be parents, so give yourself a break. If you sort of like boob
Yes.
up and you do something that's like, oh, quite, and even you can laugh with the child afterwards about it. And I will talk to my son and say, well, actually, I would have liked to have talked differently about that or handled that differently. If I had a button pushed, then I understand and I'll talk to him about it afterwards. So just allow
Sure.
yourself to be human. This is not about being perfect. This is about growing with your child. And your child will encourage you to grow massively if you say, okay, I accept this, I'm going to go for it. And every time the child
Yeah.
rattles you, think, okay, what do I need to work on today? And there's one thing I want to say as well, because we talk about the masculine and feminine balance and also about what children can help us. But I have dreams regularly which help me. I had 2 horses when I was, it was a few years ago before I went self-employed and things as well. They were both male, but I dream of these. One was I was very masculine, and one was very feminine. And whenever I've got anything going with either of them, I have dreams of these horses. So what I would say to people
Oh,
is
cool.
listen to any messages or things that work with you. Your dreams can work with you on balancing the masculine and feminine. And they work with me beautifully. And these horses continue to connect with me. They did it recently. And so there are many ways that spirit can help you and guide you with this balance of, but it's so important to have that balance. It has massive, massive benefits for the entirety of your life, not just parenting, yourself.
Right, right. Yeah, there's such, so much to learn and so much to keep on top of. And I think it's just a beautiful thing that when we're able to really open up and say, what more can we learn? Because, again, it's not even just about uh, being parents. It's about being grandparents. It's about being role models. People that,
Yeah.
make an effect. I mean, even like my teachers, somebody has mentioned that on a talk show not too long ago. They said, you can probably count, the average person can count up to 5 teachers, sometimes less, in their
Yeah.
lifetime that made a difference for them. And I started thinking about that. I can think of 2 right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And so why were they there in my life? To make a difference. And
Yeah.
as long as we take on that goal, you know, and that responsibility, to say, you know what, we do care about not just everybody in the world, but we care about these children. We care about the young parents, and we can only be there as living examples. And if they ask our advice, I don't believe myself that it is right for someone to intrude on
No.
someone else's parenting skills, unless it's
Yeah.
a dangerous situation where there's drugs or, you know, abuse or something like that. Other than that, it's a learning process for the parents and the children, and that's what their souls here are, you know, to experience.
Absolutely, and children reignite our learning as well, because we perceive learning as when we're in school, that's our learning. It's not. We learn for the rest of our lives. And children reignite that within us because they make us learn because we're learning on the job. So we understand there is so
Yeah.
much more to life. And this can be a real wake-up call for us. Is that, okay, everything I thought I knew has just been blown to pieces. Everything I thought that I'd read and knew is absolute rubbish. So it's just, okay, I need to learn. So be active with it, engaged in with it, and say, okay, I'm learning. When a child learns to walk, they fall over 100 times, if
Yeah.
not more, before they learn to walk. So we're going to do the same with our parenting. We're going to, oh, crikey, I could have done that differently. Think, okay, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to learn from that and move forward. And that's the way of learning, allowing ourselves to fail, allowing ourselves to make mistakes, and that it's okay. It's part of the process and the journey and growth.
And with you saying that, right, if you're watching your child and they keep falling until they finally get up and walk, what do? You keep encouraging them. My advice is, like, and Sally said this earlier, don't be so hard on yourself. Keep encouraging yourself. Look, there's been very many parents before you in generations that have screwed up even worse than you have. So guess what? We're all in the same boat as parents. We're all in the same boat as kids with parents that did the same thing. All we can do is keep on improving and have that relationship to let children know that they are worthy and that there are, you know, they're important. But also, with that being said, I'm not talking about giving them participation trophies for shit that they do, because they're going to have to learn that in life you do have to work in order to achieve something. Because I think, you know, on the flip side of that coin, you know, they want to say, oh, you're special. Well, the problem is that when you get out into the real world, you're not special anymore. You're on the same playing field as everybody else.
Absolutely, and if you parent from the heart and you allow these mistakes to happen and you allow things to not be perfect, then there's that resistance. Resistance, it's like we have a backbone. If we didn't have a backbone, we'd be like jellyfish. So a little bit of resistance, a little bit of, oh, crike, I didn't do well at that, or allowing yourself just to be annoyed, or you know, anything, and just to think, okay, I'm teaching my child how to handle being human and emotions. Our children vent very easily when they're amongst themselves. So when I'm in the school, they will say whatever they will express whatever's going on, then they'll move forward. It's not about being perfect. It's just allowing expression. But when you allow expression, it flows and it goes. It's gone. So just allow it. Do not beat yourself up about it, because that's when things start to fester. If you're sat there thinking, oh, crikey, that was so crap, that was whatever, then it just grows and grows and grows, and you're hanging on to it. Let it go. Think, okay, this was a learning experience. How would I do things differently? How would I move on from here? And that's your inquiring mind. Okay, how would I do things differently? And that won't be in a book. That will be from what you're learning with your child. So let your child teach you, and then, you know, move on from there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And what's the old saying? You know, that children don't learn by what you teach them. Kids learn from what they see.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, in
Yeah,
other
and that's
words,
the
how are
importance of
you
walking.
living?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the importance of walking your path.
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the best things about my kids, I think, in the relationship that I have with them, and you know, they're all ages, but I think but especially with Samantha, my youngest, the reason that we're close is because I do talk to her as like, Dad, what's wrong? I don't hide my emotions. It's sort of
Yeah.
like you had mentioned earlier about when I come on here, it's the same thing. I'm like that with everybody. If they take offense to it, then it's something that maybe they need to look at in themselves, because I'm not
Yeah.
coming on to offend anybody, but I'm just like, this is what's going on. Am I a spiritual person? Yes. But if you're going to bitch and moan because I smoke cigarettes and drink beer and think that I'm less spiritual than everybody else, then, you know, I'm glad you're perfect, because I'll never be as good as you. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. It's like, and I don't care to be. I'm just me. But I accept everybody for where they are. But again, if it's something where there's a they're abusing something or someone in their life, or it's an addiction that's overtaken their life or something like that, then I try to get involved in the best way that I can without interfering, but I'll call them on whatever it is they're dealing with. And I think that's one of the things that kids teach us. They call us on our shit.
Yeah, they
And
do.
instead of being angry about it, we really need to take a look at it and go, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? Daddy screwed up. You're right.
Yeah.
And be open and honest about it. Be vulnerable to your kids.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My son, because he understands what I'm processing. So if I'm upset or whatever, he'll come and give me a hug and just carry on, because he knows she's just releasing,
Yeah.
you know. So it's no big deal, and that's the thing of
Right.
just being you, isn't it? We unfortunately we before social media got so massive, we complained about the magazines and the shows showing life as perfect. Then hey presto, we've got social media, and again people post the best stuff on there, and so it's another pressure again of trying to be perfect. So this is why it's so important that people are just real, authentic, and share their own experiences and show this is what happens in life. It's not picture perfect. It's not that the husband has the meal on the table at 5 o'clock, the child sleeps all night, never puts a foot wrong, and everything's wonderful. It's real. Things happen. You get upset. You'll feel hurt. You'll have massive things come up from your past, because when you have a child, your own childhood comes smack in your face. So
Right.
that's the reality of it, and that's why so many people run. It's because
Exactly.
suddenly you're faced with, your voice could be your father's, your mother's, you could be feeling, but it will be there. And so it's a massive time of growth and understanding, and it can be quite painful. So this is why people need to hear our stories of what happened to us, but
Yeah.
also this is then evolving, growing with it, and then ready to share it with others. It's not the perfect picture perfect. It's remarkable. It is remarkable, but there will be many things happen, and that's just part of the growth and the
Yes.
experience.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Sally, we've gone just over an hour.
Oh
Um,
man.
this, I know it just flies by, right? This is this is fantastic. So maybe what we should do is actually get you on probably before the end of the year, so that you
Yes.
can share some of the stuff that you're teaching, because I think
Yes.
this is important. And I think, we haven't had a whole lot of viewers, but again, this is just a Wednesday night. Sometimes people
Yes.
get busy and stuff, but I have a
Yeah.
feeling that this is going to catch on. Um, and we'll just keep sharing it and getting the word out. I love you dearly.
Thank
I
you.
love your passion and everything that you have, and you're just so grounded and down to earth. I mean, I could tell that from the first time we talked.
Bless you. Thank you, John. And the same with you. So there's a real solidity about you, and that is so needed. Yeah. So you're a role model
Yeah.
to many. Yeah. So
Well, thank you
yeah.
very
Thank you.
much. I appreciate it. So everybody, that's another edition of Raw Light. This is Sally Saint. Please check her out. Sally, don't forget, add your links and stuff to the
I
comments
will.
after the show,
I will.
or check out her
Yes.
page. Do you have a website or anything you want to share too while we're
Yes.
on?
It's www.sallysaint.co.uk. And I'll
Okay,
put that
because
on as well, and then I'll put that on the
okay,
comments too.
great, great. All right, everybody, dare to dream. Don't forget, just keep on keeping on. We have this fall solstice coming up in a couple of days. Very big energy shifts that are going on. If you're feeling uncomfortable in any possible way, whether it's physically or emotionally, just let it ride through. It's not going to last. It's part of this, and then we go into the full moon. We'll get some more energy shifts and everything, but it's not going to last. And we're nearing the end of the journey as far as seeing a big shift. And I know that I'm feeling it myself, in that I have more peace within myself. I can let go of things easier and quicker, you know. So it's just it's a great ride, man. I'm excited and stoked about what's coming for all of us. You know, there's nothing but change, and change is always good, even though we might have to, you know, get kicked out of our comfort zone sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody. Much love. Dare to dream. Sally, thank you so much. Take care. Get some sleep.
Yeah. Yes. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.